Okay, Impact Wrestling. Now, you see the title. And to be honest, I messed up on the last video. I got confused. It was the 10 mix tag. Trying to explain the 10 mix tag with the 5-way that's coming the next week. And going to the Call Your Shot Gauntlet, which I'll explain in a few minutes with that. If I get it mixed up, I hope you'll understand. It was a lot to take. Because it's 3 matches at 3 different times. And it's supposed to set up for something special. But what do we have here in this show? A good show. I'm not going to tell you production was great. It was fine. It was okay. But this was not about the matches, which were fine. It was about the stories. And I'm going to say this clearly. I said this in the last video, so I'm going to try and make this much shorter than the last video. Right now, between AEW, WWE, and Impact Wrestling, we currently have AEW having, 3 really good stories. We got Adam Cole, who's dealing with MJF, and that story, that's with Robert Strum. We have Adam Copeland. There's a story right there that's going to be very interesting to see where they're going to go with that. You got Bryan Danielson. What is he going to be doing next? Because his time is running out. Those are pretty much 3 really strong stories with minor ones being sprinkled out throughout the rest of the show, which are not very strong. Then you got WWE, which essentially has no general stories. I know people say, wait a minute, what about NXT? NXT's not a brand. You've already made it clear. They were thinking of making it into a brand, but it's not a brand. It's not. And for what was shown in No Mercy, which was actually quite good, and what they're about to do next week, which is going to be around the time when Dynamite is on Tuesday, which I will be not reviewing NXT. It will be the next day, Wednesday. Since Dynamite will be on Tuesday, I will be reviewing that. Wednesday is going to be pretty much, I'll do an NXT review. I'll watch it in the morning and then upload it. But there is no really strong stories in NXT. They just, not NXT, but in the general main roster. Only one they have is Shinsuke Nakamura and Seth Rollins. And pretty much how John Cena's there now, which is not really a story. And The Rock, who showed up once, and it's not really a story. They just have moments, not real stories. Yes, you could say Gunther in his life, in his story of not getting beaten yet, but there's no real story behind that. That's just a story that he still got the title. The one who has the most interesting stories at this time, shockingly enough, is Impact. I'm saying it right now. I'm not saying they have perfectly great stories, but some of the most interesting and most unique, and actually kind of made me feel a little awkward for me personally, because you guys know what happened about 9 or 10 days ago. I made it very clear. I'll explain it here. But here, I say they have some of the most surprising stories that are interesting. Opening, Tasha Steelz versus Killer Kelly. You know the reason I'm botched here is because when you look at the Knockouts division, when it comes to the tag, it is so weak. Weak. Because they refuse, and I said this before and I'll say it again, they refuse to bring in independent female wrestlers for the division to look full. And I'm not talking about them signing. I'm talking about the women who are already on the roster who are considered tag teams like MK Ultra, now Deonna Purrazzo and Tasha Steelz. You got pretty much Gazelle Shaw and Evans, who are, all of these women are all doing double duty. Along with, let me give it to you like this. The only thing they need to do is bring in jobbers to wrestle against some of these women to make the division feel more full. And clearly, they are not doing it. And it just doesn't feel full. But I'm not saying that they don't at least give these women time to wrestle, because Kelly and Tasha had 10 to 11 minutes to wrestle. Unlike WWE. And to a certain extent, what happened with AEW, because the only time I've seen them do it is when they're really trying to make someone feel really presented, like a timeless Tony Storm. That's my girl. That's my girl right there. That's my girl. And I know that the Just Alex wants that girl's not her boobs, Her boobs like this. It's boom. He want that. He don't want these. He want boom. That's what he wants. He wants the booty. But the way I see it, they're the only ones who give these women way more time to wrestle and make them more presentable for the general. How can I say this? When you see the match itself, it's a good match. Camera work was, you know how it is. It's not always good. But it was good enough to see what was in the ring. You see that Deonna Purrazzo came out, messed with a Killer Kelly, where she tried to frame a little bit of Marsha Slamovich, and Tasha Steelz won. She just won it. Now they're going to move on as the next team they're going to be messing with. That's fine. But I want to see MK Ultra destroy jobbers. I want to see Deonna Purrazzo and Tasha Steelz destroy jobbers. Let the other teams have just a match where they lose against a team that's from the outside, and then they have to try and build a story to make them mean something. Like when it comes to Gazelle Shaw and Savannah Evans. Just something to give the division more fullness. They just haven't done it, and it sucks. I'm moving on. Now, I messed up on this earlier. I'm making it clear. I really messed up on this. If I get it confused and botch the mixed 10 mixed tag, please have mercy on me. I am being honest here. It is hard to try and make sure I am saying it correctly because I got it easily mixed up. Okay? The mixed 10 tag, I'm going to call it like that, which is setting up for a fatal 5-way. That's going to lead to the Call Your Shot gauntlet, if I remember correctly, where after the gauntlet is over, the last two people, if I'm correctly remembering, because there's supposed to be another match after that when it comes to the setup, because I think there's another match that's going to lead into Bound for Glory where the one who wins, I believe, in the Call Your Shot gauntlet or another fatal 5-way, I believe. I think that's what it is. It's kind of hard to be a little confused with it. But let me say who was in the match. You got Jordan Grace, Dango, Jake something, Eric EY, and you had... I'm surprised they didn't put them on the same team, and that's Raj versus Shira on the other side, with Myers, Jody Threat, Kylan King, and Bully Ray on the other side. It was completely a mix-up. They just threw everyone together to try and see who's going to be in the next 5-way. That's next week. So it's like really messy. But it was something different. I had no problem with it. I didn't have a problem seeing Shira and Singh not want to hurt one another, but then gets nailed by one of their own people. It just became a big smudge. But it was Jake Something's team because he was on the first team I mentioned. I think I forgot to say his name was Jake Something with that one. His team now will go to next week as a fatal 5-way. I think after that there's another match. And then I believe the Call Your Shot gauntlet will be a Bound for Glory. The ones who will be in, I believe, both matches, I think will be number 1 and number 20 in the gauntlet. I could be wrong. Please have mercy. I'm sorry. It's just they were rushing through it as they were trying to explain it and show the match. I'm just saying. Next, we got the fan revenge match. Why wasn't this left for Bound for Glory? Why? I know people say, dude, this wasn't an incredible match. It's not the point. It's different. Look, when is the last time you've heard a new style of match that has never been done on regular nationwide TV? Let's make it clear. They're on Access TV. Yes, they got a small fan base. It is recognized in most of the United States, and they also do the app, which is known internationally. Other promotions may have done this, but it's not been done on Impact Wrestling, and it has not been done nationwide. AEW hasn't done it, and WWE didn't do it. So this was a unique match that was different. They got little fans that they know that are the staple or maybe the people in the back, but I think they're mainly fans. And they gave them straps to whoop the members that were in the ring. And that was ABC and Skylar and Vidal. And understand, Skylar had been asking everybody around. And he asked originally Savannah Evans to be his partner. But due to the fact that Vidal messed up on tripping up a Gazelle Shaw, whose boob almost looked like it came out of her top almost, on that match when she was with Trin, he got that match. And I think I've been having a few shots showing it. If I haven't right here, I'm going to do it right now. It is in my face. I'm making it short. They got the hide whooped after them. And you see Skylar taking the most beatings. Of course, Ace and Bay didn't get touched. But Skylar and Vidal, he got his ass whooped. He got... And they were... kind of like... If anyone's ever seen the movie called Warriors, The Warriors, it came out in 79. When you see the gangs, in actuality, I was 8 years old when that movie came out. And there were gangs in New York at the time. And I was always told, be very careful. Do not approach certain people. Because if you do, you'll get in trouble. And they didn't mean trouble in the sense that your mom will get mad or your dad. You mean you get hurt. Even as a kid. Don't get it twisted. Don't think back then. They would not hurt little children too. There was some that had a code that wouldn't hurt kids. Little kids. Because I was only 8 years old. If I came up to one of the gang members up there, and not to be bothering them on purpose, they just smacked the shit out of me and made me leave. They wouldn't hurt me. But they were always very adamant, don't do that. Because some cases, they go a little further than that. And not just to you, but to the rest of your family. So do not think that it wasn't like gang banging back then. It was nasty. But Warriors, with bottles on his hands, calling Warriors. That's what it was like with that. That kind of, if you ever seen Warriors and you see them doing the straps, that's what it's like for me personally. In actuality, when they filmed The Warriors, literally is where I used to live in New York. I don't live there now. I live in a very different part of New York right now. But in actuality, I didn't live very far from where they had the train station shot in 96th Street. Won't say where, but I wasn't far from there. Let me give it to you like this. Who won? We already know Bay won and Ace won. We already know they whooped that ass. And then they went to the back, faced the Rascals, who now have spray painted the titles, and they want the Bound for Glory title shot. But this is where it gets interesting. We already know Sami Callihan's contract is done. He's no longer with the company. But due to the fact that now the final match before Bound for Glory for the Rascals will be with Sami and it kind of hurts knowing that Sami's not there anymore, but I can understand. He's done everything he can. He's been there, since 2017, I think? Because by the time Rick Swann finally came in, 18 or 19? That's when he was there, but Sami was already there with OVE. Ohio versus everything. He'd already been there for quite a while. So it's understandable he just decided he wanted to go to another greener pasture. Maybe he's heading to WWE, but I'm hoping he's heading to AEW where he'll have a chance to go against Moxley because supposedly they do know each other, and it will be interesting to see those two either work together or beat the crap out of each other. I would love to see that. But this will probably next week, the last match we're going to see with Sami and Rich Swann together. And him being in the company. That's just the deal. Unless he's going to be in Bound for Glory, which I don't think he will. This is it. Next. A sad match. Gunjar versus Moose. Now, I want to make this clear. I actually like Avenda Gunjar. I believe I'm pronouncing his name properly, a first name. I'm probably pronouncing it terrible because I'm always bad with names. But Gunjar, I always liked him. I always felt that he has potential. It just counts on how they book him and can he take advantage of it. When he was working before, when it was with Matt Cardona, when it was with Brian Myers, he was at least beginning to get a character, beginning to build himself. Him working with Raj and Shira just did not work for me personally. It was too stereotypical. He needed to work with other people. I wish he worked with Uemura before he left, but Uemura working with Joe Henley was good as Joya. It just needed more time to develop, and for Uemura to really just stop feeling like this is not something I'm comfortable with, because as a Japanese wrestler, we don't do stuff like this. If you want to work in America, and I'm saying this now, if you want to work in American pro wrestling, you got to adopt at least a part of how they do booking, how they do the characters, how they do some type of silliness or some type of seriousness that you normally wouldn't do in your own culture or your own personality. You have to be willing to open yourself. That's what pro wrestling does, and that's the reason why so many wrestlers have become successful as actresses and actors, because they're willing to say, okay, you want me to do this, I'm uncomfortable with it, but I'll try it. And they try to open their minds to it. That's one of the problems Uemura had. He needs to be able to open his mind. Hopefully he'll learn something from when he was here. But Gunjar just felt like he had something that he could develop, but they stopped. And now he's more like a jobber than anything else. And even though he had a great match with Moose, it felt like a job. Then we got the reason why it was done the way it was. Macklin comes out and makes it clear, Moose, that title, get that briefcase, that's for a title shot, give it to me. You know it's mine. If it wasn't for Rhino, I would have it. I don't care. Give me my title. Moose and Myers are saying, you must be crazy. We're not giving it to you. No, we're not. And he said, well, I'm going to leave Bully Ray out of it because pretty much we already covered that weeks ago. Bully is not doing anything because of PCO or because Devon is around now. And they may be trying to set up Devon and Bully Ray together again. Maybe they'll start something after Bound for Glory. But pretty much PCO comes and beats everybody up, and now Macklin's going after PCO again. Pretty much they don't really have much for Macklin to do right now because what's going on with Josh, what's going on with Alex, and they got to do something. So now PCO is transitioned from Bully to Macklin. That's the way it is. Do I agree with it? Not really much, but it is what we have. Now, let's see. Khan versus Josh. I'm doing this now because the segment I want to talk about is after this. Like I said, it's a little bit awkward for me, so I want to do this at the end. But Khan versus Josh Alexander. And we got Alex Shelley at commentary, and we had Diener at ringside. Eventually, as you know, Diener was going to interject himself. Alex tried to help, and he made it very clear during the interview, I am not going to let you get hurt. I want to face you clean at Bound for Glory, 100%. But it didn't work out. And in the end, pretty much Josh won, but Alex got hit during the process. And he was angry at Josh. Josh, for the most part, was trying to talk to him, but let's make it clear, they are like water and vinegar. And sooner or later, water and vinegar separates. And guess what? We got a shell shock for Josh from Alex. I'm not surprised it happened. Alex Shelley is the type that will be straight with you. He'll be by your side. But when the time comes and he really wants something, he's going to do something, a little shenanigans. He don't care. He will get it done. When it's push to shove. And he doesn't like to push the shove, but when it comes down to it, he will do the push to shove. There you go. Oh, and I almost forgot, we did get the interview for Trinity talking about, let me give it to you like this. Am I looking forward to her and Mickie James? Yes, I am. I am looking forward to it. And she made it very clear she loves her, she respects her, she deserves the shot, and she's going to give her her best, but she's still going to keep that title. I am happy about it. I'm happy to see this. Now, the one thing I'm not going to talk about much will be about Eddie Edwards and Kaz, Frankie Kazarian, because we don't know how they're going to stop this feud they're going to have yet. Until they do, I'm not going to talk about it. One thing I am going to talk about was the segment that it felt real. This was Tommy Dreamer and Steve. I'm saying it again. Not Crazy Steve. Steve. Tommy comes out. Tommy calls out Steve. And I'm going to keep calling him Steve. Anybody says, why are you calling him Steve? He's crazy. No. They may still use the moniker Crazy Steve for him. No. I am calling him Steve. Because Steve sounds more menacing than Crazy Steve. Oh no, Crazy Steve. No. Steve is coming. I'm leaving. That's why. But when Steve comes out with the briefcase, we get real story time. Tommy has been friends with Steve for quite a while. Tommy used to help him make sure he had money in his pocket. Tommy knew about him being legitimately blind. And for me personally, this kind of hit home for me. Because I was married, and I'm saying this with no shame in it. I was married. I'm divorced. I divorced my wife. It just didn't work. But I learned a lot when I was with my life, in my life with my wife. One of the things I learned with her, how hard it is to be with someone who has albinoism. If you don't know what that is when their skin is very pale and white. Their eyelashes will be blonde. Their eyebrows will be blonde. Their hair everywhere will be blonde. And in some cases, they're blind. My ex-wife was mostly blind. She could see, but not very well. She was not able to see very well. Of course, later in life, she did get a surgery to work on her eyes, and more power to her. I'm happy that she can see much better. But she couldn't see very well. And that was kind of hitting home for me because I was with someone who was partially blind. Then hearing that Steve never 100% felt happy or comfortable in himself and never drove a car. And it was Tommy who made it very clear, and it's a real story. He decided to put it in there. He said, I took him after we had some fun, got drunk a little bit, took him to a parking lot and let him drive my car. And he said, and I quote, for the first time I feel like an ordinary person. That's Steve. Tommy put him over. He made it very clear. He isn't just any ordinary wrestler. He's one of the greatest wrestlers. He's basically Daredevil in his own words. And we know Steve can't see. He can't see very well. He's probably like blurred out like this. You can't see very far. So saying that he's legitimately like Daredevil ain't much of a lie. He said, you're not just a very special wrestler. You are a great wrestler. And everyone started cheering him. And he made it very clear to everyone and to Steve, if you wanted a title shot, I'll give it to you. You more than earned it. And you're my friend. You don't need to go down this path of darkness. I know it's been hard, but I love you. You're my friend. And he asked to give him a hug. And this is where it felt awkward for me because once he hugged him and something was going on, I thought he was giving Tommy a bear hug. No. He stabbed Tommy with a fork in his side. I don't know if I got the shot. I'm hoping I got it. If I don't, I'll see if I can go to one of the other sites and get that shot. And you will see it in this video. But I won't leave it as the thumbnail. Guys, for me personally, after what happened to me 10 days ago, where, just in case you don't know, 10 days ago at the end of September, going into October, I went to get breakfast on a Sunday, and legitimately, as I was coming back from the store with my food, the police were less than 10 feet away from my apartment door. Some guy was sprawled on the floor, wearing a black tank top. He was stabbed. And worse yet, that stab, basically, it was deep enough and cut wide enough that his intestines came out of his body. And the last 10 days, I'm still going through it. Yes, I did get help. Don't worry, guys. I do have a psychologist. I've spoken to her. I've told her what has happened. And I'm working through it. it still messes with me on and off. But talking about it does help. But it did make me feel awkward. I'm not going to lie. It came close to home because I've seen something like this. Almost. But I'm telling you, this was real. This is the reason why I say that Impact at this time is doing things not many people are doing. They're going a little more further than anybody. But look what we got. We got Impact doing this. This is one of the most surprising things you would see. And Impact has done this over the years. AEW now has something special with Adam Copeland, with his story with Christian Cage. We got the story over there with Bryan Danielson and MJF with Adam Cole and a Roderick Strong. We got this here. When it comes to Josh Alexander, when it comes to is it a strong story when it comes with Alex Shelley? No, but it's not that bad. Seeing that Chris Sabin's dealing with Kenta, there's not that much of a story there, but there is a history. Both of them have been in the business a long time. Both of them are well known. That in itself is a story, but I'm not saying it's one of the most perfect ones. Trinity and a Mickie James. Guys, they have never 100% went up against each other much at all. Someone said they've only touched once in a tag match, separate from each other, years ago. They've never actually faced each other in the ring. And now they're going to be doing a title. And this will help Trin. This will help Trinity to really cement herself outside WWE. Where I know for a fact this is going to make her even more prominent. Where she'll learn more about being a ring general, which she should be. She's always been a good wrestler, but she's not a ring general. Working with a Mickie James. Working with anybody else who's a really great veteran. That could really help. I would love her to go up against Gail Kim. But Gail, after what happened getting concussed, I wouldn't expect that. I wouldn't mind seeing Angelina Love go up against her. Not Velvet Sky, because Angelina's a better wrestler. Selena Deeps, I would love to see her go up against. Just more. Mercedes Martinez go up against Trin. I'm hoping that eventually she should go through these women. This is the things I see with Impact. Taking away from the production problems, they got a lot more than what WWE has. That's the truth. This is just me. Peace.